What is up, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rage, back with another Battlefield gun guide to bring to you, and today we're going to be looking at the AK-24 assault rifle. And now the AK, it always has a special place in my heart, because especially when you compare it to things like the M5, the AK is usually considered to be the more damaging, the slower fire rate, the more kind of like steady, whereas the M5 is pretty much, those kind of like platforms anyway, are usually a bit more faster fire rate, a bit more forgiving, able to pretty much laser down. And obviously when we did the gun guide for the M5, well, that can be kind of the case. It can be quite difficult to be able to use at longer ranges. I do think that the AK actually takes the cake on this one, because it has a better recoil plot, it has arguably better damage profile as well, and has some of the better kind of mag attachments as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into this. We'll go through some of the stats similar like how we did for the M5, and as always, make sure you are subscribed to the channel to be able to be in the know for all the latest gun guides. So let's crack things off with looking at the aim down sights time of the AK-24. Now, from what I can gather from the testing, I believe that the AK does have the exact same aim down sights time as the M5, so that clocks in at 270 milliseconds. And it's quite nice. It's quite snappy. It does feel like you're able to kind of like handle anyone that kind of comes rushing to you, and yeah, like I said, it's kind of on the quick side. If we go from there to kind of like the damage profiles. Now, the damage profiles were quite a bit different from what the M5, and I wasn't expecting them to be on this kind of level. So whereas the M5's first damage drop off was 20 meters, and then obviously it was 21, 49, 50. The AK's is actually, the first one comes in after 10 meters. Now, the 10 meter damage on the standard magazine does 26 points of damage. After that, so 11 meters to 49 meters, we're looking at 22 damage a shot, and then up to 50 meters and beyond until infinity, we're dealing 18 points of damage. Now, what that means to you is that you're going to be doing a 4, 5, or 6 shot to kill, which obviously is 1 shot quicker than the M5, which, when we tie it in with the rate of fire, which we'll get into in a bit, means that we do actually have a quicker damage profile than what the M5 actually does come to offer, just because we are not having to rely on that additional shot to be coming your way. When we look at the other kind of attachments, obviously we do have an extended mag, and we do have a drum mag as well, but these are all for the same standard rounds, so the damage profile is exactly the same. When it comes to high power, we do have high power and the high power extended mag. And what I've noticed that it doesn't necessarily seem to increase or decrease anything. I don't know if this is just my testing, but from what I can gather, it still was a 26, 22, 18. But you know, it is nice to be able to have that offer of like swap up in terms of ammo, so you have something else that you can swap over to, especially that extended mag when it comes to the high power as well. And then we also have the armor piercing, and the armor piercing has the exact same kind of damage profile in terms of like when it drops off, but instead of doing 26, 22, 18, we're now looking at a 22, 18, and 15, and what that means is that we're looking at a 5, 6, or 7 shot kill. And that basically, because we have a slower fire rate than the M5, means that the armor piercing is actually going to be worse for you than using the M5 when taking on infantry. We do also have the option to be able to use suppressors. Now, I did mention in the last gun guide that when it comes to suppressors, I want to do a lot more testing, but I actually did like some pretty solid stuff for when it came to the AK, and what I found is if you use the suppressor on the standard magazine or the standard rounds, or any of the other rounds, basically, we're looking at a damage profile of 24, 20, 17, which puts it to a 5 or a 6 shot kill. And then when you use it with a suppressor with the armor piercing, you're dropping all the way down to a 20, 17, 14 damage profile, which puts the AK at either a 5, a 6, or an 8 shot to kill. And that 8 shot to kill is so harsh that means that we're looking at a time to kill of around about 653 milliseconds, which is absolutely abysmal. I would highly recommend that you don't use a suppressor when it comes to the AK in that kind of regard. The only thing that is really going to really hold you back if you use a suppressor on the standard means that that first damage range for up to 10 meters it just means you're going to be taking 1 additional shot to kill. But anything that's outside of 10 meters, so basically almost anything that's kind of in your face, kind of shotgun range, it's pretty much the exact same. We are looking at a 5 or a 6 shot kill, so you don't need to worry about that kind of side of things. So really, you could get away with using the suppressor on the AK, just don't combine it with the armor piercing. If we have a look into those magazine attachments that we've just talked about in terms of like the ammo capacity, then the standard magazine has a 30+1, the extended mag has a 40+1, the drum mag offers a 50+1, which is huge. The high power offers a 20+1, the extended mag of the high power offers a 30+1, and the armor piercing offers a 20+1. When it comes to reload speeds for each of these, the standard mag is the quickest, coming in at 2.33 seconds. The extended mag bumps that up to 2.53. The drum mag is it feels like an age to be able to reload, but especially when it's compared to the standard mag, because this comes in at 3.37 seconds. The high power is 2.53. The extended mag for the high power is 2.7, and the armor piercing is a 2.5 reload. So fairly standard, fairly across the board. We are looking at very kind of similar reload times to that of the M5 if we were taking into consideration the close combat kind of magazine as well. When it comes to the rounds per minute, I found it a little bit different. And obviously, please do take this with a pinch of salt, because these were all hand tested. These were, depending on the mag size, obviously the results can be found to be a little bit different. But I managed to find that the standard magazine was coming in at 680 rounds per minute, which is quite respectable. The extended mag was still around about the same, so I've got that as 683. So that could be down to a rounding issue, so that could be 680 as well. The drum mag brought it back down to 680, so that would make sense for all three of those to be on 680. The high power dropped down kind of a decent amount, down to 642, and the high power extended mag, weirdly enough, dropped down all the way to 628. I'm not entirely sure what's happened there. I don't know if having the extended mag actually does it cause additional kind of like loss in terms of rounds per minute, or maybe it's because the high power, because it was in a 20 mag, maybe that's offset it. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to double check that. And then when it came to the armor piercing, I also got that at 642 as well, the same as the high power. So just know that when it comes to the high power and the armor piercing, you are looking at a decrease in your rounds per minute. So obviously that will affect your time to kill. And so speaking of time to kill, so let's get into that. So obviously I did mention that we would do this. When it comes to the standard rounds, you're looking at around about a 265 millisecond time to kill within 10 meters, which is absolutely insane. That is a really nice thing. And then when you factor in the fact that headshot multipliers are 2 times on this, so if you like mix in one of those shots with that, all of a sudden you're going to drop that down by a quarter. It's you're going to see a very nice time to kill if you can hit your shots when it comes to the AK. Because the AK on the standard rounds, because you are dealing 26 damage as a normal body shot, if you actually within the 10 meters actually land 2 headshots, you can get a 2-hit kill, and that is insanely fast on this gun. So if you are able to get your aim down to that kind of like perfection of when you're in close quarters, I'd highly recommend that you go for that. It's probably going to be one of the fastest like automatic guns in this whole game when it comes to that. When it comes to the high power, we are looking at around about a 280 millisecond time to kill, 373 in medium range and 467 at range. And then when it came to the armor piercing, because obviously we are looking at additional shots to kill, it dropped all the way down to 373, 467 and 560. I'll drop the suppressor ones on there as well, so you can actually have a quick look if you're interested. But yeah, it will affect your time to kill the more the distance kind of like stretches out. Now when it came to the barrels, this was kind of on the easier side because we only have 2 barrels to worry about, so we don't have a short barrel at all to be able to worry about. That's increasing our rate of fire or anything like that. So when it came to the standard barrel, we are looking at, obviously I've mentioned a standard RPM of around about 680, and the bullet velocity clocked in at around about 800 meters a second. When we put on the long barrel though, we are looking at a rate of kind of a massive loss when it came to our rounds per minute, which brings it all the way down to around about 593, which is around about a 13% loss when it came to your rate of fire. And then when it came to your bullet velocity, it was once again kind of on the disappointing side when it came to the M5. Then it only bumped it up to 870 meters a second, which means that you're only seeing around about an 8/9% increase in your bullet velocity. So it doesn't really feel like it's worth it unless you need that additional like recoil control with the fact you've got a slower rate of fire. I kind of steer clear of the long barrel. I don't really feel like it's helping out too much at this moment in time. time, at least not with these current guns that we're looking at. So I'd highly recommend that you stay with the standard barrel, keep your time to kill at a really nice, snappy, nice, quick, kind of like measurement of time, and then just just learn to be able to help control that recoil and adjust for it. And like I said, the bullet velocity, the dip in the bullets as well, is kind of negligible really for just how much of a firepower boost you really are kind of like losing on this. Now, there was one separate attachment that was quite unique to the AK-24, at least in terms of the guns we've looked at so far, and that's the fact that it has an armor-piercing grenade launcher, which was the first thought. It just kind of looked a bit strange to me. But don't get fooled by this attachment. It does help take out vehicles a little bit quicker. You can actually use it to be able to take out light vehicles similar to like Jeeps. It will take all 3 of your grenades just to be able to take out one vehicle, which is kind of on the annoying side, especially since you can't resupply these from like ammo crates or anything like that until you die and then respawn. But also don't go firing these at tanks, because for whatever reason this armor piercing does absolutely nothing to tanks. It will just bounce off and it will do nothing. So take it as you want. It is primarily just for rockets that are designed to be able to take on tanks, or at least that's what happened in my testing. Maybe I was stood a bit too close, but as far as I could tell, the armor-piercing grenade launcher did absolutely nothing to a tank, and you know, that's the end of that story. So just make sure you keep hold of your grenade launcher. I don't think the armor piercing really helps out too much. To be fair, most of the grenade launchers in this game are kind of on the weak side, and that, I understand the reason why. Obviously, we don't want to see like 5, 6, 7 people kind of like collapse just from a grenade launcher going off, but you know, I would like to see it get a little bit more of a damage buff, especially if it's an armor piercing that's taking on the lightest vehicle in this game, and I still need to use all 3 of my rounds to take out one of those vehicles. I would like to see some kind of boost to it, but you know, that's what it is. But I'd recommend that you go for a grip just to be able to help out with that recoil. Speaking of recoil, obviously the AK-24 is supposedly supposed to have a higher kick than when it comes to the M5. Now, I found the AK a lot easier to be able to control because it doesn't have as much horizontal kind of recoil to its pattern at all. You'll see a couple of patterns that are going to be up on the screen right now, but it is pretty much straight vertical. Obviously, there is a little bit of kick left to right, but most of the stuff is straight vertical, so as long as you pull down your like the analog stick on your controller, or you pull down the mouse when you're playing on PC, you are able to pretty effectively control this, and quite well, and it allows you to be able to extend the range that this gun can actually use. When it came to the M5, I didn't find that I was able to like push the limits or anything like that. I wasn't able to like challenge like DM7 users or anything like that when it came to it, but the AK I feel has the ability to do that. So you can get away with like a magnified sight on this, you can get away with running it close quarters, you can get away. The AK feels very versatile in this game, and I do think it's going to be one of those kind of top choices when it comes to what you're actually going to see out in the battlefield. When it comes to attachments for this though, just to be able to assist with that recoil, you can go for something like a champion muzzle brake to be able to assist with that vertical kind of kick, because those first few bullets are very, very harsh when it comes to vertical, but the ones after that are very easy to be able to control and maintain. So you could get away with using that, or you can go for one of the muzzle brakes that helps with the horizontal, and then that basically makes it almost straight, and you are able to just go like continually pull down on your gun just to be able to try and keep it on target. So you can go either way. I did try using it a lot with the vertical, and I was finding great success, but you can definitely use it either way. And then lastly, in terms of stats for us to talk about, we've got the sights for the gun. So the gun has the exact same amount of sights when it comes to the M5, and it's important to know that we also cannot do the testing for the M22 right now, because it does require long shots or shots over 100 meters to be able to get that sight. And while the AK is a bit easier to be able to do that, it's still not the easiest thing in the world, just due to the damage profile, especially when you've got to land anywhere between 6 to 8 shots just to be able to get that kill. So you'll have to excuse my testing. I don't have those figures just yet, but rest assured, if I can do, I will bring those and update the video as it goes on. But when it came to the aim down sights, I actually found it a little bit different compared to the M5. So we've actually got 4 groups this time. So irons, K8 hollow, fusion hollow, basically anything that has anywhere between a 1 to a 2.5 times magnification is exactly the same. It does not affect your aim down sight speed. You are looking at around about 270 milliseconds to be able to aim down your sight for that. Next up, we've got the Bravo 3X, which has a 330 milliseconds aim down sight, so it adds about 60 milliseconds onto your sight. Not the worst in the world, and definitely can get away with that one. Next up, we've got the Raven 4X, which then bumps it up a little bit more to 370 milliseconds. But the big daddy, the one that really affects your aim down sights and pretty much almost doubles your current ADS time, is the M11-6X. Now, if you're using this to be able to reach out and touch people with an AK, then all the more reason, all the more power to you, all the more reason, and all that kind of thing. But I would recommend that you don't use any kind of like sniper scope when it comes to an assault rifle, especially not the AK-24, but just know that that option is available to you there, and it will drastically hurt your aim down sights time. If it came to me to be able to recommend a loadout for you, then I would have to stick with some kind of version of a close range optic, so feel free to choose whichever one you want to go for, but personally I'm more of a fusion hollow kind of guy. I would go with the LWG grip to be able to help out with that accuracy, just to be able to, I found that that was the one that kind of offered the most kind of reduction when it came to the recoil, but obviously go for whichever one you feel comfortable with. I will also go for the Champion muzzle brake just to be able to help me out with that vertical climb. And then lastly, I'd also go for the extended mag, just because I feel like 40+1 is enough rounds for the AK to be able to help me out take a few people out, and I don't have to worry about the extra long reload when it comes to the drum mag. And I feel like it just, you know, it's a nice little trade-off. I'm only adding 0.2 of a second onto my reload, just for having an extra 10 rounds in the magazine, which is more than enough. So that's what I would currently recommend. But feel free, if you've got any kind of recommendations for loadouts and all, feel free to drop those in the comment section down below. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up the gun guide. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've learned something useful, and I hope you found anything in this guide for you to be able to take away and also enjoy. As always, thank you so much to the Babylonian family for their continued support. If you want to join in and be able to help support the channel, all you have to do is click that join button that's found right next to the subscribe button. It really is as little as 99p a month, and all the money pretty much goes straight back into the community, goes straight back into the channel, just to be able to, you know, help run little competitions and all that kind of thing. So it really does help us out. As always, keep yourself safe, keep yourself well, and I'll see you all on that next video.